Yeah, good evening, friends. My name is Preetham, and we have been talking, interacting on our WhatsApp group. Uh, it's such a pleasure to meet you in this virtual world. Uh, I cannot see you, but I definitely, I can see that uh, you have started joining on the live chat. Uh, it's a very interesting experience to talk to our true champion users who are using this interesting application for studying, and we are so happy to see beautiful response from primarily from students, right? Because what we are doing is for students, because they are the true users and they are someone who will uh, spread the word, who will kind of get habitual to this methodology that we are trying to promote, and in a way effectively benefit out of it. So I'm just a part of team. I'm more of a front end. I keep talking to you, but actually there is a pretty big team that work with us on this particular initiative. Uh, you must have imagined there'll be, so there are some developers, there are some architects who develop the application for us, who would come up with different features so that we can deliver it to you. Initially, we thought of just passing on the with charts to you, but then how will you store those, right? How will you store those in a structured way? And if you want to go back and just pull history chapter 2, you don't have to keep it in your image folder and find out which are the relevant charts. So we want to create some kind of library for you, which is more of a virtual library. And today it is just a library, but very soon there will be more interesting features that will come up in this library. So basically there is a team of technology experts, then there is team of content expert. The content that you get to see on this particular platform, there are expert teachers who are creating the content. There are expert content generators who are translating that into a digital form, and then there are visualization experts who are translating this into visual that you get to see. So basically, thanks to everybody who has made this happen. Now, I'll quickly talk about what Vizi is so that we can discuss how can we use it more effectively. Our primary purpose to do this entire exercise is to make sure that the methodology of visualization is something that we want students to use, and they should be enjoying it to an extent wherein we need to reach a point wherein students create their own with charts and take it forward. Okay, so that's the whole purpose. So first we'll give you these with charts so that you can enjoy, you can get habitual to it, and then as we go further, we'll have more focused training programs on how to draw. If you have any specific questions around, what goes in, how to visualize better, we can have sessions around it so that we can help ourselves. That's the whole purpose. So to start with, we'll talk about the concept itself in a minute or two, and then we'll take you to the Vizi application, and we'll discuss about how to use Vizi effectively, because exams are approaching, and we need to know how to use it so that it can help us, it can benefit us in the exams. So let's talk about the concept of visualization. Okay. Now, if I give you a word, any word for that matter, if I tell you, if I say car, if I say mango, the moment you hear the word, how do you recall it? What do you see, right? So when I say car, you don't get to see this word see this word as CAR, or the letters as such. Basically, you see a shape in front of your eyes. Or when I say mango, you don't get these words, right? These letters, MANGO. What you get in front of your eyes is some kind of shape, a color. So basically, if you try to think, everything that we remember, our brain first tries to see that is there a visual storage about that concept. And if there is no visual storage, then it will try to pull that information, For example, if you say photosynthesis, now if there is no image of photosynthesis in your textbook, then you will try to see that page. You basically get to see the page wherein the words are written, and then while recalling it in exam, when you write your question paper, when you solve your question paper, right, you try to recall that paragraph. But first, was there an image? Can I extract the image? So our brain is very, very, very fast when it comes to pulling any visual information. Then what it does is it will try to fetch the information based on some hints. Okay, so while teaching you a subject, any specific subject, if the teacher has given you some example, then you would try to connect through that example, right? So this is how. So let's say you have a friend, in your school who hardly meets you, and his name is Arun, and that his name is basically, the meaning of his name is sun. So you have kind of related it that this guy has a name which is where the meaning of his name is sun. So next time if this guy meets you, and if after a long time, and if you don't recall his name, you will try to relate. What, this guy's name is based on some reference, right? So basically we go by some kind of clue. That's how you fetch the information. So the way brain fetches the information is based on the visual memory. Secondly, it is based on some cues, some clue, right? The way we remember colors of rainbow, based on cues, right? And then we actually try to go through the words, a lot of words, right? One thing as a student which I always, which puzzled me is there were chapters, like 15 pages of chapter, and then as a student I'm supposed to read those 15 pages and then remember, and then remember dates, and remember what happened, and remember the formulas, and all exact definition. So it was always difficult for me to recollect. So now when we did some research around what best can be done, we came up with this methodology. It is based on 3 primary concepts. The first concept is of mind maps. It is by Tony Buzan. Many of you might have heard about him, but we don't call what we create as mind maps, and there is a reason for it. If you have gone through various which charts that we have created, you would realize that many a times we have broken the rules of mind map. So that's the reason we don't call it mind map. Now why we have broken, there is a reason, and we'll explain that to you. But basically Vizi is a tool. It's a supporting tool which can help you do better, which gives you better learning experience. It also can be used as a teaching aid. So we'll today take a look at some kind of examples of charts that we have on the in the application, and then we'll discuss how to read. So if I need to prepare for exam, or if I need to prepare for any given subject, how do I go about it, and how can I use Vizi to help my study as a tool, as a aid? Okay, so let's look at some of the charts. Let's go to chapter. Now I'll show you both. Right, I have a student who is in 7th. If you see the application, Atish is in 7th, and then Ishika is in 8th. So you get to see these 2 separate tabs. So in any application, if there are more than 2 students, basically if there are siblings, you'll get to see interfaces for both of them. So let's go to 8th, science. Okay, and in the chapter 1, if you go, let's go to crop production and management, and let's scroll down. So now what you get to see here is that these are all concepts in chapter 1. So everything which is mentioned here, basically, the whole sum of all the concepts mentioned here covers the entire chapter 1. We are pretty sure about it that we haven't missed anything. All the important concepts in the chapter are kind of extracted and which are pulled here. So let's open the 7th chart. Let's go from the top, right? I want to open the 7th one. So can you let's pull this one. Um, Now, this particular chart, if you see, let's say, primarily now in this particular chart, the whole representation of this chart talks about different ideas of visualization, as well as the concept of mind maps. Okay, so here in this particular chart, if you see, it talks about irrigation. And so the primary concept of any chart that you will see typically would be either mentioned at the center of this page, or it would be mentioned in the top left corner. Now I'll show you different examples of positioning of this primary concept, but first let's try to understand how to read a given chart. So in this particular chart, you'll see different colors, and there is a reason why colors are used differently. Because when you will try to recall a given concept, based on the color coding that is mentioned here, you'll be able to identify a logical, answer for a given, question. For example, why water? Now, if you see why water, all the reasons that water is used to germinate seeds, it maintains the moisture. Water is also used. It kind of protects the plant from hot air and frost, right? Nutrients are kind of transported through water. So all these concepts which talk about why water, if you see, everything is in green, and to support that there are a couple of interesting diagrams. There is a germination process, and it shows that drop of water out there. Or you also see a diagram wherein the entire plant, 90% of it, if you look at the height of the plant, 90% of the height, we have mentioned that it has water. So in a way, even if you remember this diagram, you'll be able to recall that water has if you look at the plant, 90% of plant was primarily water. Again, there is an umbrella which is protecting the plant from sun and from wind. So if I see this whole thing as one diagram, uh, uh, there is a concept, there are related words around it, and there are some interesting visuals which help me understand the concept. So, if you talk about irrigation, then there are methods of irrigation. There is a traditional approach, and then in the modern approach, what you have is, for irrigation, you can use sprinkler or you can use drip. And then when you talk about sprinkler, it talks about few more details about the sprinkler. Where is it that sprinkler would make sense? So useful on uneven land, or on a sand platform. So one has to go from the center, and like an octopus, you have to read every branch and keep your reading limited to a given color. The moment color changes, you understand that now you are talking about one more subsection within the concept. Okay, so that's how one has to read it. This is one example. Now I'll show you. Now this is more like mind map. Okay, this is mind map with some interesting pictures. But I'll show you something more now. Let's go to standard 7th, and in this we would go to geography first. And what I plan to do is I'll show you this mind map, which is chapter 1. And let's open the the ecosystem. Now, if you see the ecosystem, again, it's a central idea, the central concept of ecosystem is highlighted out there, and it can be of kind. So you see all types of ecosystem, okay, along with the diagram, so you can relate it. Then there is a definition, next to it, that it is formed by interaction of all living organisms with each other. So there is a definition, and there are few more details about the definition, which you see in brown there. There are some important things about ecosystem which are mentioned in that dotted circle. So this is one diagramic representation. Will it continue? Okay. Good. So let's go to 7th geography, chapter 2, and here we'll take a look at. So give me a moment. Let's come out. chapter 2. So let's go back and we will go to chapter 2 of geography, and let's open the 6th chart. Okay. Now this particular chart, if you see, it's a rock cycle, and interestingly, now here you see that these are primarily diagrams. There is no mind map here. The whole concept is explained using diagrams. So this is how rocks are formed, and they change their type, right? So when if you see that, you know, when the rock is broken down, and basically the small particles are transported by water, by wind, then it goes to a state which is called as a sedimentary rock. When heat and pressure is applied, it becomes a metamorphic rock, and then with even more pressure and heat, it can melt down. So basically, this whole representation is more diagrammic, is in nature. So you will find such visual representations with charts in the in Vizi, which are completely diagrammic. We believe that these are very, very helpful. Now, how to use these various types of Viz charts, right? So there are Viz charts which are which are closer to mind maps. There are Viz charts which have a lot of visual content. There are Viz charts which have some kind of workflow. Okay, so if you go to crop management, let's say, go back and let's go look at the 8th syllabus. So in 8th, in science, what we get to see is there is this crop management, and in crop management, if you see the agricultural practices, now here, because there is a sequence, certain things are done in a sequence. That's the reason you'll see the entire sequence has been presented not only in a text form but also in a visual form. Okay. So here, putting this in a more octopus kind of way will not help, because I not only need to understand that all these steps are done in agricultural practice, but I also need to know that there is a sequence that's been followed when you talk about agricultural practice. So that's the reason there is a logical flow, more like a workflow here, which you can see. So this is one kind of diagram. Now the question that you would have is that, okay, now if these are all Viz charts, what is a better way to first read it, and second, how to use this in preparation. So if I break down my Viz chart, let's use the terminology of a clock, right? In a clock, you have these sections. If I have to cut the clock in 4 sections, there is 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock section, there is 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12, right? Viz chart typically will start either at the center or at between 9 to 12 quadrant. So the way to read any given Viz chart, so let's go back and take a look at a Viz chart, right? Let's read this one, let's say. Now here, if you talk about, it starts from food. Okay, so that's the first concept. But so it starts kind of in the center, but then one has to start reading these Viz charts. So the first section that we need to read is anti-clockwise. So you start from 9 to 12 section. So you need to, so basically let's read food. Okay, so food of animals, plants and humans. Plants can make their own food, but now let's start reading anti-clockwise. So basically animals eat plants, and then there are wild animals, which hunt animals like deers and all. Even man can survive on animals, but man in search of food traveled from places to places. And when was this? So this was 10,000 BC. That is when man was called as like a nomadic man, right? And then the agricultural practice started. So basically, if you see the flow of reading starts from 9 to 12, then you go to 9 to 6, then you come to 6 to 3, and finally you go back to the the rightmost corner. You pick up any chart for that matter. Good. So let's go back and take a look at some more charts, right? Let's go to let's say um, uh, seventh history chapter 2. Okay, so we go back, we go to history. Now I can scroll between the subjects. So I go to history and chapter 2. Now let's pull chart 1, let's say. So see here now, as I mentioned, let's go anti-clockwise. Let's start from this 9 to 12 section. The whole flow of how foreign traders came to so basically why they came to India. Okay, and which were the foreign traders? So there were Portuguese and Dutch and French. Portuguese came first in 1498, and the route by which they came, and then what was East India Company's role here, right? So, and why they were, they were so important, how they made sure that their business is protected by getting rights from, Queen to as a sole trader in this subcontinent. So basically, the whole thing travels on why they did something, how things happened, and it travels towards the the rightmost corner. So all the information that you would see here will have a similar logical flow. So a Viz chart, so basically what we learned now is how to read a Viz chart. Now, these are some of the best practices that we would like to recommend you in terms of how to use it while studying. So Viz charts will be used, we would recommend you to use Viz charts at three different, in three different rounds. So when you while preparation, first understand Viz charts is not to replace a textbook or replace learning. It is to support learning. So you have to start with the book for sure. So you can go through the notes or you can go through the chapter first. Post going through the chapter, if there is a chapter we have gone through a page in a chapter, let's say page 1 in a chapter. Now you can go back to Vizi and look at Viz charts which are specific to a given page. So I read a page, I look at the Viz charts. So now there is a quick revision that I have done about. So if there is a bigger page which talks about let's say this particular page itself, right? So what happened with subsidiary alliances, how British kind of forced this alliance to small and weak Indian rulers. So there is a textbook which you go through, then you look at your Viz charts and do a quick revision about, okay, this is what I read and this is how it is presented in a Viz chart. Now in the second round, so this is the first round of reading. When you would do the second round, we want you to reverse the whole process. So we want you to start with Viz chart. So first I would look at the Viz charts and I would read, okay, so there was this subsidiary alliance, which means the company would protect the king and the kingdom, and in turn the small and weak rulers were supposed to pay back to subsidiary forces, and if they fail, they have to give away some territory. Now while reading this, if there are some specific things which I am not able to recollect, then I can go back to book. So the first round was the book first, come to Viz chart. Now what I am saying is that Viz charts first, and while reading the Viz charts, try to recollect all what you know about a given concept, and then if you feel that there is something missing, you can refer the book. This is round 2. And round 3, which is on the big day, on the day before the exam or on the day of exam, we recommend that you will not have enough time to kind of go through the book every time. So if I need to do revision of, let's say 5 chapters, 10 chapters, then it would make sense to just go through every chart, look at the chart and try to memorize what's out there. This will be a good tool for you to recall the information that you have learned, for during your preparation of exam. So that's how one needs to use a Viz chart. Okay. Now, before we conclude, I'll also talk a bit about how we create Viz charts. We can have more focused session about how to create Viz charts post the exam, because exams are coming closer and you will not have enough time to start creating your own. But we will definitely do this session to know how to draw Viz charts. Basically, for someone to draw with charts, one has to understand the concept first. So you go through the chapter, you understand the chapter, you highlight the important points in the chapter. Then you take up a given important point, and then you put that point. You find all the related important information about the given specific point that you have identified. You put it down on some piece of paper, and then you try to connect the dots. Okay, so let's take an example here. Fair enough. So let's talk about what happened about when it comes to Sirajuddaulah, and why how Britishers got to know that this power that they get through having control on territory is more interesting, and they can exploit it. So so now I know that after going through the chapter idea, I have taken out a point that let's document what happened, which kind of gave power to Britishers or to East India Company, so that they can appoint a new Nawab. So companies started appointment of new Nawab is a primary point which I want to control. Now so how it happened? Okay, so once assassination, so it started with Sirajuddaullah's assassination. Then they appointed Mir Jafar. They didn't like his job. They appointed Mir Qasim. Again, he was not listening to them, so they defeated him at Buxar and reappointed Mir Jafar, and then paid him some salary. So in this process, they got to know that we can actually appoint a Nawab, and that's where they realized that we have better control, because now we can do business the way we want to do, because now we have control on the politics. So when Mir Jafar died, they actually got this permission from Mughal Emperor. Now all these facts, if you see, the chapter has lot many details, but what are the primary facts? We have tried to pull the primary facts and then put it out there, and you connect the dots. So any chart, when you go to any chart, you will see that chart is nothing but all important facts that one needs to know to understand the concept, understand the chapter better, and the relationship between these points. Okay, so this is what a Viz chart is, and then while drawing, you consider all this. Now, wherever possible, you will try to visualize information. For example, in this particular chart, when the East India Company was defeated by this guy Sirajuddaulah, then company sent some help from Madras. Now, if for me to understand it easily, what I did is I have drawn Indian map there, and from Madras to Kolkata, the ships were sent, along with the army under the leadership of this guy, right? The first. So now, if I look at this particular diagram, then I would get to know that how Robert Clives come in picture. Okay, from where was he sent? So primary facts, representation of facts, and how they are connected, and some diagrammic representation which can help me recollect certain aspects of a specific concept. So that's what one needs to do when we draw with charts. Now, what we'll do is, next time when we'll do this session, we'll actually take some chapters. We can do specific sessions for 7th or for 8th, so that you can understand what I'm talking about, because this was for 8th, right? So if there are students from 7th, they might not get what I'm talking about. So we can do a separate session for 7th. We can pick up a chapter, and together we can draw a Viz chart so that you understand the art of drawing it. And when you would draw it on your own, um, that is how you really recollect the information. That really creates a very strong impression. But till then, what you can do is, uh, you can enjoy what we are creating for you. We have we plan to deliver you all the syllabus for the term 1. So we will keep delivering you something every day which you can start going through. I'm sure you are studying parallelly as well. So every day spend some time, you know, uh, spend some time along with the books, spend some time other way around as well. First with charts, referring to books, but just browsing will not help. You will have to look at a chart and try to read out loud. So you look at a chart and actually the way I'm talking to you, I'm reading it loud. So Alawardi Khan died, and this is what happened. And there is some information which is not there, but which you know. You read it loud. You also mention about it, right? So this is how the information will be stored in your brain visually, audio form, as well as the relationship between various points. So that was a brief about Vizi, different charts, how to read charts in Vizi, how a Viz chart is created, and what is a best practice to use Vizi while studying. We are pretty excited and happy to pass on this to you, so that you enjoy this visual learning process. And we get very interesting feedbacks from students, from parents. So let it come to us, because that's how we keep improving things. In our next versions, we'll also have audios along with every Viz chart. So you'll also get to hear. You can play just 1 minute audio with every Viz chart, and then you'll be able to recollect it better. We will give you features to add your own notes to Viz chart. So there are new things which will come, but all this, we need to know what is it that you need more from us, because these ideas will help us give you a better solution which can help you in your studies. So happy learning, enjoy Vizi, and every feedback is welcomed. If you have any difficulties, just go to Vizi. There is a feedback page. Put the feedback, send it back to us. We value your feedback. We go through every feedback that we get and we act on it. So some of the changes that you get to see in the applications are because of people, friends like you, who have given us some feedback about a specific thing. So let the feedback flow, and we are kind of monitoring how you use it, so that we understand what you enjoy more. Thank you so much. Feel free to send your queries to us, and happy Vizing. Bye-bye.